Okay, so welcome everyone to the presentation for the Collaboratory. Hopefully this presentation can give you a little bit of insight into what the Collaboratory does, what it is, and how it can be used. I'm going to be presenting in two parts. The first part is just a short pitch explaining what the Collaboratory can do for you, and then I'll go into a demo presentation of the Collaboratory. Okay, so the Collaboratory is basically a tool that's there to help you boost your research, your network in the community, to help you boost your productivity and your visibility as a scientist or researcher for the results that you achieve. The Collaboratory, obviously, when you hear the word Collaboratory, you hear collaboration. It's there to enable collaboration in multiple ways. The first way is it helps you identify people you can collaborate with within the EBRAINS community. It is there to provide workspaces, which are controlled as far as the access to the different workspaces. So you can create your own workspace, control who has access to it. It's there to help you document the work that you do, to help you share your data with other users or with the community in general. It provides an environment for interactive trial and error programming, which is rather nice if you don't know it. And it's there to help you share your results, your work in general. All of this, obviously, if you choose to use it in that way, nothing is mandatory. Okay, so the first point is, how do we identify people? How do we help you identify people you want to collaborate with? So everyone that uses uses eBRAINS, well, most of the services require that you have an account. You have one account that gives you access to all of the eBRAINS resources. And you have a user profile which you're invited to fill out so that people can find more information about you and everyone else that is using the Collaboratory. User profile is filled out at one of these two URLs. If you're an HBP member, you can go to the first URL, plus.humanbrainproject.eu, user's profile, and fill out your profile there. If you're not an HBP member, plus-external.humanbrainproject.eu, and you'll get the same form. So it's basically the purpose there is to just give a little bit more information about what it is you do in the project or in the eBRAINS infrastructure, how you're using it, so that people can, and giving a means for people to contact you. The fact that we're managing accounts is also important for service providers. So those of you who are developing services, you have a generic way of authenticating the users to your service, and that is done through a standard OIDC interface. So OpenID Connect interface, standard protocol, which is quite widely used, and so hopefully it's a simple way to connect your service into the eBRAINS community as well. We're providing controlled workspaces, and by that, there's several aspects of that. First of all, the storage and the computing for those is hosted on Phoenix servers. Phoenix is a research infrastructure which is being built alongside eBRAINS within the ICEI project. It is based in 5 different supercomputer centers across Europe, in Switzerland, Spain, France, Italy, and Germany. And the Collaboratory is currently hosted at CSCS in Switzerland, but we do plan on using other resources as well as they become available. The workspace, a workspace in the Collaboratory is called a collab. A collab is either public or private. If it is public, it is accessible to everyone, not just people who have an account inside eBrains. So everyone in the whole wide world who has access to internet can come and view your collab. If it's private, then you choose who has access to the collab. You do that through a team application, which lets you lets the person who creates the collab define who are the admins of the collab, who are the editors, and who are the viewers. And by admins, we just mean people who can change the team of the collab. Everything inside a collab is also version controlled. This is important. This is true both for the file repository and the documentation that you have inside the collab, and I'll be mentioning this point again a little bit later in the presentation. As far as documentation, we provide different options. You can do documentation directly in the form of Wiki Pages, which are an easy way to put content online on the web. We also provide a solution for Office documents, so Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, with collaborative edition of those documents directly online, in the Collaboratory. So that's a nice feature for instance, for taking notes during meetings. We use it a lot, but for documenting requirements, for instance, and collecting feedback on those in the form of comments, or just generally people adding their own parts to a document. So we use that quite a lot. And then we have an option for Markdown, this is mostly used by developers, but it's a nice way of having simple formatted text with a complete ASCII interface, no graphical buttons to click or anything. And you can have any other type of document you would like inside your collab. I'm citing here the example of PDF, but you could use any other format as well. Collaboratory is a way of sharing data with other people. So each collab comes with a drive. The drive is the repository which is allocated to that collab. It has the same permissions as the collab, so the people who have access to the collab have access to the drive in the same way. And your drive supports file versioning. I'm insisting on versioning because one of the things that we're trying to do as well is encourage people to use to define a team which might be a little bit broader than they would normally do, and a lot of people are still not very accustomed to the idea of working collaboratively on a set of files or set of documents or other. The fact that everything in the Collaboratory is versioned means that you can trust the people in your team to give them additional permissions, and at any point you can go and check who did a modification of any of the files. And if you're not happy with one of those additions, you can always roll back to a previous version of the file or of the Wiki Pages. So it's an important feature in the sense that it promotes the collaborative aspects of the work in the Collaboratory. Oops. The Collaboratory also comes with a programming environment. It's Jupyter Notebooks. For those of you who don't know it, Jupyter Notebooks, it's an interactive programming environment. It comes with all sorts of nice things, including many scientific libraries. We're using Python mostly for the Jupyter Notebooks. In Collaboratory 2, it's currently only Python which is supported. It's Python 3. Python 2 is no longer a thing. It's been deprecated now. The deprecation of it was announced years ago, and it's now official. So we support Python 3 in the Collaboratory. The notebooks have direct access to all the files in your collab. So in the drive of your collab, and it can access not just your files in your drive, but it can also access files which might be shared through another collab or the drive of another collab. So it's a handy way of having direct access to files, whereas the Jupyter notebooks in the previous version of the Collaboratory that we had required library accesses to access files. Jupyter Notebooks is also provided in the Collaboratory as a means to access basically all the eBRAINS resources. We would like to encourage people to give examples of how any of the resources inside eBRAINS can be used, to do it in the form of notebook, so that it becomes a natural reflex for everyone within eBRAINS to go and check for notebooks as examples of accesses to the different services within eBRAINS. One of the nice things about the notebooks as well is that you are already authenticated in the eBRAINS environment, so that there's no additional authentication which is required. Okay, the Collaboratory is also there to help you share your results and your work. Back in the days when you published a paper, it actually went into a book at one point. More recently, you would have a PDF that you could share with other people. Today, with the Collaboratory, what we're trying to encourage is people to have the article in the collab, to have the data and a notebook directly in the same collab, so that the readers can come and try out your notebooks, try running it with your data, possibly change the data to something else to see how that affects what the results are with a different set of data, possibly modifying the notebook as well to try some different things out. It's much fuller experience for the reader than just having a fixed paper as you would in the PDF. Work on the Collaboratory started at the beginning of the Human Brain Project. That's in 2013. Since then, cloud services have evolved quite a bit. A lot of the work in the Collaboratory was full development within the Collaboratory team. Since then, there are many cloud services which do similar parts of the job as the Collaboratory is trying to do, and so we decided to produce a new version which is based more on third-party tools. We have currently fully released all the main features of the Collaboratory in the Collaboratory 2, which means that Collaboratory 1 is now officially deprecated, and we are going to be helping people migrate content from the Collaboratory 1 to Collaboratory 2. But really, I think if you give Collaboratory 2 a try, you'll find that it has a lot of nice features, nicer than Collaboratory 1 if you used to use Collaboratory 1. And if you haven't tried Collaboratory 1, you might still want to take a look at it, as it may still currently contain some interesting content for you. I'll be providing the link to both later. So as a quick recap, the Collaboratory is a means of organizing collabs for the work you do. You can define a team among the people within the eBRAINS community, which has access to that collab. You can create Wiki Pages to share your information with the visitors of your collab, or to share information with the people you're working with within the collab. You can have office type documents with online collaborative edition of those documents. You have a drive which is available for all the data, all the documents that you'd like to share or to use in your work. You have a Jupyter Lab environment for programming, doing any programming you want to do, or sharing any code that you want to share with external users. All that in one environment. And if you're interested in knowing what hides behind the Collaboratory, the Colab, the authentication is based on Keycloak, the Wiki Pages on XWiki, the online collaborative edition on OnlyOffice, the drive is based on C-File, and the programming environment is based on Jupyter Lab and Jupyter Hub. So a quick recap, our contribution with the Collaboratory is a means for you to access the neuroscience community within eBrains. It has among the advantages is that no installation is required on your part, rather than installing all of these different apps on your own computer. You can access them from anywhere because they are in the cloud. You don't need to have a specific computer with you at any given time. You have workspaces for your projects, for your teams. They allow you to share your work and your results, or not to share them. That's up to you. And we encourage people to eventually share live publications in the form of articles, plus data, plus programs directly in the collabs that they're setting up. Anyone can can register for an account if you haven't done so. I'm not sure that the people attending, I expect they probably all have an account. Anyway, it's ebrains.eu/register to register. You can access the Collaboratory at wiki.ebrains.eu for version 2. Version 1 is available at collab.humanbrainproject.eu. It's one account to access both, in the sense that it's the same username, the same email address, but you can have separate, but they are in practice 2 separate accounts, and you can have 2 separate passwords for those. Just pointing it out. And if you have any question regarding anything related to eBrains at any point, you can always contact support at ebrains.eu. There's no question which is too small or too large that we will not handle it at support. Okay, so that was for the presentation part, and I suggest that we now move on to the demo. And okay, so you access the Collaboratory by going to wiki.ebrains.eu, and you come to the front page of the Collaboratory, and you can log in. This takes you to the eBrains authentication, and at this point I'm logged in. I have my name, which appears if I hover over the profile icon. So here on the first page, you have, first of all, you have the top menu, which appears throughout the Collaboratory. Just checking on time. Okay, we're good. Top level menu, which appears through all the pages of the Collaboratory. You also have a Getting Started button, and you have a couple of searches. One field here, which is actually the same as the one that you have here, which lets you search for words in the Wiki pages that you have access to, in all the collabs that you have access to. We plan on having highlighted collabs shown directly on the front page. So it's a means of highlighting to external users the different collabs for either which are interesting in the which have something interesting just to share with the people outside, either in eBrains or outside. So it's going to be collabs which have interesting use of notebooks, for instance, or which have live papers, or which have interesting results inside them. if you would like to, if you have a collab that you'd like to highlight, just contact the support and we'll look into it. Okay, the getting started will give you the basics about the Collaboratory. I'm not going to read through this at this point. Instead, I'll try to show things to you directly in the demo. By the way, that page is also referenced in the documentation. The documentation actually takes you to a collab called The Collaboratory, where you find all the documentation or links to all the documentation. And we're still going to be doing a little bit of work trying to organize the documentation within this collab. But at least all the documentation is either in here or referenced from this collab at this point. If you click on collabs, you come to a search form where you can search for different collabs that you have access to. I'll come back to this. There's a link direct to support on the eBRAINS website. And you have a link to the Collaboratory 1 form, which is going to be migrated over to the Collaboratory 2. So we're going to be keeping the same form feature as we had in Collaboratory 2. Basically, what you have is a typical form type interface where you can create new subjects and people can respond directly within each of the subjects. Okay. Let's start by looking at the user at your profile. So if you click on your profile, you see that you have units that you belong to and you have groups that you belong to. Most people probably won't have as many units and as many groups. The first unit is typically the one that your email is one that's determined from your email address that you register your account in. So in my case, I'm with the PFL, Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne. I have then also requested accreditation within the project by browsing units, and everyone that's in the HBP project can request accreditation in the HBP project by going to the HBP. So all projects, HBP Consortium, SGA3, which is the last phase of the project, the work package that you're working in, and the task that you're working in. And let's pick one. And I could request to join. That would send out an email to the admins of this task, and they can then choose to accept your request for accreditation in that task. Once you're accredited in one task, you're accredited for all of SJ3, and that gives you additional permissions within the Collaboratory and possibly within other services of eBRAINS. Okay, if I go back to my account, so I had units and I had groups. The difference between units and groups, well, both contain a list of users. The units are a fairly static structure which is organized in the form of a tree, as you saw. The groups are more ad hoc feature where people can create groups based on their specific needs. Please don't be creating groups which correspond to teams of a collab or to teams of a task. There are other means of doing that, and not everyone currently has permissions to create groups. But generally speaking, units and groups are there to manage permissions. So by setting roles on a unit or a group, we can give permissions to a group of users. So if we come back to the collab, actually, so to the list of collabs, there's one collab called the Demo Collab. So if we go to the Demo Collab, it's public. As you can see here, it's public, and I am a member of the collab, meaning that I am a member of the team of the collab. I can go to the team. You will not be able to go to the team if you're not a member of a collab. But you can create your own collab at any point, and then you need to manage the team of your collab. So when you click on the team app, when you click on team, you'll come to the team app of the collab. So maybe just before this, on the left-hand side of the web page in the Collaboratory, you always have the navigation part, and then the rest of the page, aside from the menu at the top, is the main part of the page which will display whatever you've chosen in the navigation. All collabs have a team, have a lab, and have a drive entry. They all also have a main page for the collab, and then you can add subpages and subpages of the subpages within the collab. So you can, in certain cases, you'll have a whole hierarchy in the navigation here. So back to the team app. You can define who is admin, who is editor, who is viewer. You can remove permissions by clicking on the delete on the wastebasket next to each name. You can add users directly by clicking add user and looking for instance for user. If you're not sure about the user that you're viewing here, you can click view details to see what units, groups, possibly that user is already in. That should help you identify the user one way or another. You can go back, and at this point you can click on the name to add the user to the collab, and that's how you add the user, and this is how you delete the user. Okay. We are encouraging people to give permissions by units and groups rather than by users. Most of the time, well, at least all the HBP members will be sharing their work with other people within with other HBP members. Likely they are members in the same task or the same work package, and so since there are task units and group units which are, sorry, task units and work package units which are defined, it's easier to, it's better to set permissions by those units rather than individually by usernames, because that way when someone leaves the unit, they are automatically removed from all the collabs where those roles were used to give them permissions. And you can do the same thing for editors and for viewers. In this case, you see that everyone that is in that's in the SGA3 unit or a subunit of that unit has viewer permission in this collab. So that's a very handy way of managing permissions. Okay, now that was for the team application. For each collab has a drive. The drive is the file repository for that collab. In this case, you see that you have folders and you have files in the sorry, in the drive. One example is a Word document. If you click on a Word document or another Office document, it will open only Office for you. It's just a regular Word document. It actually is a Word document, docx file behind that is being managed. It's not a separate format. You can add a little bit real estate on, better use of the real estate space on your screen by deactivating the margin menu that you had there, or you can like this. And you can type away in the file. You can add comments. Maybe show how to add comments. Go to collaboration, select, add a comment. And at this point, you will see that there's a comment because the word is highlighted in yellowish orange there. Okay, you can also work in track changes. If you do, then all the text that you add is going to be colored according to your user. In this case, on this file, I'm the only user connected in OnlyOffice. You can see that up here where I have my username. And if there were multiple users connected at the same time, you would actually have an icon here giving you the list, the number of users, and clicking on it would actually show the list of users editing this file at the same time as you. Just a little bit of one point of detail. If multiple people are editing the same OnlyOffice document at the same time, then what happens is that your OnlyOffice actually creates a session within OnlyOffice, and everybody is working in the same session, and the saves back to the drive are going to be done automatically at random by one user or the other user within the session. Okay, that may be a little bit confusing, where you might actually find that the information in the history of the file. I'm going to show you this. If I actually, we can go directly here. So we're looking at this file. If you highlight any of the files with the mouse, if you hover over it, you have the menu that appears for that file. You have, among the menu, you have a history for the file, which you can view. In this case, there's only one version. You could have multiple versions of the file with the time when it was created and the user that saved it and the size. So if you have multiple people in the same session at the same time, you don't really know by default whose name is going to appear as the modifier of the file. There is really no way around that. I think even Google Docs has the same issue in their environment. Okay, so that's for Word documents. Do you have the same thing with Excel and with PowerPoint? The Excel interface for OnlyOffice is not quite as advanced as the ones for Word and PowerPoint. So you may find that there's a little bit more limitations in the Excel interface. Here you have an example of a notebook, which I'm not going to open here. I'm actually going to go to the lab to actually, maybe before we do that, let's show you how the Wiki Pages work. So as I mentioned, the front page for the Colab is always a Wiki page. It has a bit more advanced format. Than other Wiki pages. You can clear it if you're not happy with that and just reuse a regular Wiki page format. You can edit it at any point by clicking the edit button, in which case you come into the edit mode of the Wiki page. You can also, for certain things, it might be useful to actually look at the source code of the Wiki page, and most notably if you want to just duplicate a Wiki page. Sometimes copying the source code directly to another Colab or to another Wiki page in general is the easiest way of doing it, but it's definitely not the only way of doing it. Any addition that you do, you have a preview for, and that's pretty much, I guess everybody has already used Wiki Pages at one point or another. You can create a sub-page within any page. So here we have another Wiki page which has been created. This one uses a little bit. Let me show you how you create a Wiki page. So when you're on any of the Wiki pages, you can click on Create. This will create a new page, a new sub-page under the one that you're currently looking at. So you give the page a name, and you can choose one of different formats. There's two Wiki page formats. There's the one which we were in just now, which is an article format, which has a table of content on the right-hand side, which is generated automatically for you. or you can have a blank page, which gives you more space in the window for the actual page, because you don't have the additional navigation menu, the table of contents menu on the right hand side. You can also integrate an iframe instead of a wiki page. In that case, the iframe will let you integrate any other web page in place of the wiki page, and it will ask you for, if I say create, you need to give it a name, and I say create, and here it will ask you for a link to the page you want to link as an iframe inside your collab. Okay, I'm not going to do this. Canceling. Okay. Nope. Let's go to this page instead. You can embed a video in a collab, and actually we encourage this as a means of sharing videos with people, either people outside who don't have an account, or people within who have an account, an eBRAINS account. The better way of doing it is actually to upload the video directly to a video website such as YouTube or another one of your choice. And you can choose to make it public or not public within YouTube. And then you can embed the video directly inside your wiki page. The way you do this is explained here. You edit the wiki page. You add a macro so that you can insert HTML code. So the macro is this cog icon here. You add an HTML macro, and you can type your HTML code here. So if you have a video in YouTube, whether it be shared or whether it be public or not, it will always give you the code snippet that you can use to share the video, so to embed the video, sorry. So you can copy paste that code snippet here, and basically that's how you share a video. It's a nice way of managing permissions also about who has access to that video, but because only people who have access to this collab will have access to this wiki page. Okay, I will go over to the lab, so the Jupyter Lab. All collabs, as I mentioned, have a team, a drive, and a lab. If you click on the lab, it will open Jupyter Lab as a sub-page within the wiki page that you're looking at, or the collaborative page that you're looking at. You can always open it in full window mode, which gives you a little bit more real estate again to work with. It automatically opens the Jupyter Lab focused on the folder that is the drive of your collab, so that you can directly access the notebooks that you have there. So in this case, I have a demo notebook. If you have never used Jupyter notebooks before, it's based on cells. Each gray area here is a cell. The cells are numbered on the left. You can reorder the cells. You can execute one cell and not the others. You can execute the whole sequence of cells. The cells will allow you to do some programming in this case with Python 3. You can also do some documentation in the cells directly as plain text or as markdown text. And it's a nice feature so that you can mix explanations along with the code that you're running, and you can then share that notebook with other users, and they have a nice interface with both the comments and the code directly in there. If you share, you could, so there's all sorts of functions that you can, math libraries or other Python libraries that you can access from your notebook. The Jupyter notebook, so when I run the Jupyter notebook, it actually it creates a new, runs my own container, Docker container, in the background. That Docker container is shared with all the notebooks that I run myself, whether it be this collab or another collab. And we are going to provide a means of resetting. That means that if one of your notebooks is configuring your container, that has an effect on the other notebooks that you may be running on inside that container, and we're going to be providing a means of resetting your container at any time automatically as well. The Docker image that we use to generate that that's used for that container is one that we currently provide ourselves. We're going to make that process, the process of creating Docker images, one that EBRAINS users can collaborate in by, we're going to be sharing the Docker file that is used to generate the Docker image, and the users will be able to request that their own tools or other tools that they need to be pre-installed inside the Docker image, so that, again, there's a minimum installation required on your part to be running your jobs inside the notebook. And I think that's about it. You can share a notebook inside your collab. This is currently not a very user-friendly thing to do. So you can embed a notebook by actually exporting the notebook here. And I believe that's done in the file. Export notebook as HTML. It's documented, the exact procedure is documented in the collaboratory, in the collab called Collaboratory. And the result you get is you can have the notebook visible for other users with not just the code, but the results as well, shared directly inside the notebook. So we're actually using the notebook viewer here. The procedure right now is a bit tedious, and we hope to improve that in the future. You can also add a link directly to open a specific notebook. You can do that from the navigation of your collab. So if I click on this link, it will open the Jupyter Lab with that notebook, the one that I want to show, already open for you in the Jupyter Lab. If you edit this link, you see that basically it's just a link that which specifies the name of the collab, demo collab, and the name of the notebook that you want to share. Okay, I think that actually covers pretty much everything I wanted to show. So at this point, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer the questions.